Kal-El, my future grandson. This is the story of the House of El. Our ending has yet to be written, but this is how we began. Ours is a story of sacrifice and triumph. How the House of El led a revolution against tyranny. The story of your family isn't how we died, but how we lived.
Hey guys, Ben here, and welcome back to another video on Krypton Season 1. So today we're going to be talking about Episode 1, we're going to be doing my review, giving a breakdown of the episode, pointing out all the Easter eggs that I found. So if you do go on to enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment, and subscribe if you're new, so you don't miss any Krypton videos later this year. Because I absolutely loved this first episode, and I intend on making videos for each episode. So it's coming out every Wednesday, quite late at night, so I will be doing these reviews the next day after. So we're going to be heading into this review, we're going to be giving my thoughts, and also we're going to be breaking down the Easter eggs and just everything to do with the episode, the plot, the characters. So overall this episode was really good. It literally delivered everything that I wanted, and I have to say, being an English person myself, I really connected with this because I don't think there's been a proper superhero TV show that is full on English, and I think it does cater to the English audience a lot better than say it would to a worldwide audience. Even though I think the large majority of people who will watch this show will really like it, I think if you're English you will like it even better, because obviously in other shows English people are really portrayed in a way that they really aren't, and we're portrayed as stereotypes really most of the time, and I felt like this was more pure to what it is like living in England. So they chose to go with the English actors on purpose, and obviously the only American in the TV show that we saw was Adam Strange, because he's from the future, he's from Earth, he's not from Krypton. So on Krypton, most of the people here in this iteration of Krypton actually speak with English accents. So that was just a really nice point from my end. I'm not sure if you guys got that from wherever you live, because I know most of the people who will be viewing this are American. So tell me how you connected with the show. So we're going to be breaking this down. So the opening sequence was really awesome. It was a quick visual history of Krypton, just exploring Krypton on the outside, and you know, there was a few nice shots there, but most importantly in that scene we actually get the explanation that Seg-El is talking from the future, recounting the things that happened in the past, and he is addressing it to Kal-El, so maybe it's some sort of message. And I have to say the visual effects are stunning in the TV show. Kind of reminds me of Blade Runner. It's got that sci-fi feel, and I really enjoyed what they have done. So obviously the production value is a lot higher, and they've done a really good job with the visuals on this TV show so far. So this is set 200 years before Kal-El's birth on Krypton, and the House of El has nearly died, and at the start we get the introduction of Val-El, Seg-El's grandfather, and Seg-El is our main character on this TV show, and he's going to be trying to save Superman, his future grandson. So the main reason why Brainiac is actually heading to Krypton is because he's actually from the future. He's come back in the past to try and destroy Krypton, and to try and not let Kal-El actually get to Earth so he doesn't become Superman. So that's the main premise of the show so far. And so Val-El actually dies, and he dies because he believes that this threat is coming, that Brainiac is coming, and he found evidence that Brainiac is alive and he is coming for Krypton like he's come for all these other worlds. So that was really interesting, and I felt like it was kind of satisfying at the end, although it was really sad when Seg-El's mum and dad both died, but they believed in the truth, and that's the main reason why they died, and that set up really nicely for the ending scene with Seg-El in the Fortress of Solitude. So throughout the episode we got the repetition of the person called the Voice of Ra, and in the comics the Voice of Ra is basically like a Jesus-like figure on Krypton, and he serves above the council, and he's the highest ranking person really on Krypton, but mainly to do with Kandor. So Rao actually speaks to him like Jesus did in the Bible, and obviously there's a lot of links to that religious imagery, and they really portrayed it well, because this figure, the voice of Rao, is actually really kind of creepy, if I'm honest, and I'm really intrigued to see what is actually behind those 3 or 4 heads that he has. So most of this TV show is actually going to be set in Kandor, the main city on Krypton, and if Kandor sounds really familiar, it is because Brainiac does end up collecting Kandor and putting it in one of his glass bottles that he keeps on his ship as he goes to all these different planets. And so that happens in the future, and I'm guessing it's going to happen in the future of this, but we'll have to wait and see if it's actually going to appear on this TV show. But sometime in the future, in the comics, he actually collects Kandor, and so I have to praise them for getting these really good actors in this TV show. Cameron Cuff actually does a really good job as Seg-El. I couldn't ask for someone actually better and who feels more suited to the role than him, and all the other cast members surrounding, they all did a brilliant job. Black Zero, you guys may have heard of them. There's a lot of different iterations, but it seems like the version of the Black Zero of what they're actually going for is the terrorist organization in the comics. So I feel like for this episode, they were just a plot device to get everyone to actually listen to them, that being the council. And so in the episode, we find out that Seg is actually in a relationship with Lyta Zod, and also Seg is bound to Nyssa Vex from the House of Vex. So we get a introduction to these different houses. We've got the House of El, we got the House of Zod, and we got the House of Vex, and I think there's another one that's going to be introduced, but I didn't hear it actually in this episode, so let me know if I missed that. But Adam Strange pops up, and this is a big deal because in the comics, Adam Strange is actually from Earth, but he actually lives on a different planet due to the fact that he's actually zeta beamed into space and he ends up there, and he's in some ways part of the Justice League in the comics. He's called upon when he's needed, and he's a superhero, so it was really awesome to see that Adam Strange had a relatively big role in this episode, and he will have a big role when Brainiac gets here, and hopefully he does end up suiting up by the end of the season. So he explains to Seg-El that he's traveled through time and space, that he's from the future, and that he's from a planet called Earth. And so obviously Seg doesn't actually believe him at first, but he warns him of Brainiac and what's to come, and we get a few Superman Easter eggs, and I will talk about the ending scene in a minute. But he is rendered weak, and this is most likely due to time travel. I doubt it's necessarily due to him being on Krypton specifically. I think it's just due to the timeline changing with him actually appearing there. And with the show going for the time travel explanation to a lot of this, it seems like he has to disappear at some point and maybe go back to the future, whether it's on Krypton or whether it's on Earth, and it seems like he has teleportation technology of sorts. So we get to look at all the different guilds, and obviously there's the Science Guild, there's the Genesis Guild, and there's a few other guilds, and so we get a brief introduction to all of those different things. And so the Genesis Chamber is actually really awesome, because we get to see how babies are actually made in present day Krypton from what Seg-El is like, and I don't think, as far as I know, that Seg-El is actually one of them. His parents didn't actually have that, and they introduced that once the council was actually overridden, and obviously they answered to the voice of Rao, and they have the Genesis Chamber, and they can see what their offspring will actually be like in the future. So nearer to the end of the episode, as we progress through the storyline, Seg-El begins to learn some more stuff about the House of El and what they actually do. So we get the introduction of the Fortress of Solitude. Obviously you guys know that from the Superman comics and from the Supergirl TV show and the Superman films. Obviously that is a massive thing in the Superman lore. So we get this version, and it's actually not Superman's, it's Val-El's Fortress of Solitude. And in the end, somehow, Superman gets the inspiration, most likely from Val-El, and the information that Superman has about his homeworld to actually make the Fortress of Solitude on Earth. And I think that's the reason why he actually ends up calling it the Fortress of Solitude. So hopefully they link that back in. And so whilst we're inside the Fortress of Solitude, we get the explanation that Val-El actually found signs that something was coming, that this extraterrestrial being was coming, and obviously that's in the form of Brainiac, as Adam Strange actually explains at the end of the episode. And Val-El died trying to protect Krypton, and so did his parents to protect the secret, and now Seg-El must stop Brainiac from destroying Krypton and from destroying Superman and him in the future, so he won't exist. And so also a small little Easter egg I spotted in one of the containers in the Fortress of Solitude. It looks like there's a Black Mercy there, and if you guys remember back to season 1 of Supergirl, Non actually used a Black Mercy on Kara, and the Black Mercy is a big thing in the Superman lore. It's used quite frequently, and it's used by Mongol and a few other villains, and it's to portray the idea of this perfect world, and normally it's them going back to Krypton. It's normally put on either Superman or Supergirl or someone from Krypton's body, so they get to see what they actually want to see, but instead they are actually comatose, they are in a coma, and the Black Mercy takes control of them. So I think that was a really cool Easter egg that they included. So one of the final things I wanted to talk about was Daryl Vex. So the main sort of villain in this episode, before we get to the Brainiac stuff, was him, and he sent Val-El to his death, and he ended up causing a lot of death and a lot of pain to the House of El. And so it's essentially him against the House of El, and really Seg hates him, and it was actually said in the episode. So I'm really intrigued to see how this character's storyline actually develops, to see if he has the same allegiance throughout the whole season. But I do think that something's going to go on. I do think he will get killed at some point. The ending scene of the episode was really awesome, and I have to say throughout the episode there's so many brilliant lines. I think the way that the script has been written is in a much better way than any other superhero TV show that I've watched as of now. And so Adam Strange explains to Seg-El that this is Superman's cape, and by the time that Superman's cape actually disappears due to Brainiac actually coming to Krypton, and he's destined to destroy Krypton at an earlier point than Krypton's actually destined to die, at that point Superman will cease to exist. So that is the main mission of the TV show. And so if you guys didn't know, this is the same cape design as the original Superman cape design from the original Superman Christopher Reeve film, and that is just a really awesome Easter egg that they included that, so you can theorize about all the connections to the other films and the TV shows. And so at the end, Adam Strange explains that the Collector of Worlds is coming, and we get a glimpse at his skull ship, and we get a glimpse at Brainiac and what's inside his ship. And finally we get a look at the bottled cities, and obviously they're not just bottled, they're more in like globes, I guess that's what I would call it. So I'm really intrigued to see what other cities he's got inside there, because he doesn't take planets, he takes cities from those planets and essentially destroys the rest of the planet because he takes the main cities. But anyway guys, if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment, and if you want more Krypton videos, which I will be making, please be sure to leave me some feedback on Twitter, or also leave me some feedback in the comments below. And anyway guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.
Strong, it doesn't make us weak. Tongue tied to service like shut